can't think you're going to survive in Bop Pop on creativity and inspiration? Get a life, dude. Get real. Wake up out of your dream. You need a system if you want to sling bangers week after week.
What is Bop Pop?
Songwriting, right? Original song creation, okay?
A Facebook group, right?
Exactly. It's a Facebook group, weekly practice.
Started by these awesome psychos in Brooklyn.
Yep, some Brooklyn cats. Bop Pop, right? This is important, okay? Bop Pop gets serious and people go hard for years on end writing the songs every single week. And you get feedback, people vote on it. Whoever wins gets to pick the theme. It's just this cycle, you know, weekly cycle. We got sucked into this whirlwind of Bop Pop right at the same time we're doing Meshuggah Monday. I think I started Meshuggah Monday first, and then I started seeing how Bop Pop was crucial. And when it sucked me all the way in, you know, there was no turning back, even though the whole time of both was insane. Like doing Meshuggah Monday and Bop Pop every week, like no way to really describe it, but it's definitely very, very demanding. So it's like, if you thought Meshuggah Monday was hard, imagine doubling that workload, but more than doubling it, really, because writing original songs is like, you know, every week with the lyrics, you know, you go, people, it's Bop Pop, right? Like, you're not just doing it by yourself, you're comparing it to the other people. So you're like, oh shit, like that thing pops all the way off, right? Because, you know, the competition, right?
Because at the end of that week, it goes into a playlist and everybody listens to everything, you know, like as if it were like an album, you know?
The weekly playlist absolutely kills it. I mean, like, you look forward to it. You want to make sure your track is like the best one, obviously. No one is like half-assing it. Why would you? You're writing songs. You really want to like outdo the previous week. I find myself in this situation where I'm doing Meshuggah Monday and realize that I am going to have to be a serious Bop Pop person, and I just can't, there's just no choice. I just realized this is like what I have to do right now, and it's like, figure it all out. Like, you're not going to make money, obviously. You're going to do this on top of like an actual, you know, like career life situation, and it's like, you know, don't miss a week, son, right? So so figuring out solutions, right? You figure out, like, that's the whole point. You instantly subvert the paradigm, because if you don't subvert the paradigm, you're going to die out there. You will not make it. Like, if you don't somehow integrate your Meshuggah Mondays with your Bop Pops, you will not, obviously. That goes without saying. You can't, you have to, like, link it, right?
It's all about synthesis at that point.
Oh, yeah.
When you're working on Meshuggah Monday, you're learning a bunch of stuff from the transcription that you're doing and the arrangement that you're making. So you synthesize it into the Bop Pop that you're creating each week and making it your own through that. So it's creative practice to do that.
You're integrating.
Integration and synthesis.
Yeah, yep. You know, you're caught up in that whirlwind, right? Like, all that shit is colliding. All that shit is colliding. And the thing is, here's the subversion, right? Here's the subversion tactic, right? This is such classic levels that barely anyone's ever understood or been in this place. But like, Eric, I think we've both been in this place where you obviously take the Meshuggah beat cycle, right? And you remove the notes and you just keep the rhythm, and you remove the bass, the riff, the melody, you remove all that, and all you have left is the rhythm. And then you just build on top of that. And that's the subversion, right? That's the level of subversion instantly. And it's so obvious, right? And you're like, okay, cool. This is going to make sure that I don't have some kind of foundational idea, right? Like, the first level is you're thinking about like, oh, I'm never going to lack for ideas, right? But that still is like, well, you can't just rely on Meshuggah to create all your ideas for the rest of your life, right? So there's kind of that nagging thought in the back of your head, okay, I'm going to have to adapt it at some point here. But in the beginning, you're just like, oh, like, I just hacked the matrix. Like, I can literally write songs like this for the rest of my life. Distant thought is until you run out of Meshuggah riffs. But then within 33 weeks, you start to realize, oh my God, I understand the system. And it's absolute like kaleidoscope enlightenment, dude. It's gnarly.
And that's the story of how you created the school, essentially. The duality of those two things together, right?
Yep.
Is how you figured out the systems of creation, you know?
That was the journey I took to find the systems. And here we are at the beginning of the education phase. The researching phase is mostly complete. Although, you see, in the school, every single week with the brand new banger track, dude, those are just applied systems. And I can choose, you can choose, we can all choose what level of complexity and how much challenge we want to put on ourselves and when we're composing, right? So it's like not every single week I'm doing like nightmare Meshuggah cycle, like, oh, try to learn cycles and stuff. Like that shit's hard to remember. Like that shit's really hard to memorize over a short period of time. But sometimes you just like, you're like, oh, I'm going hard this week. I'm going to like do the hardest thing ever this week, right? Point is, I'm still with that BOP POP Meshuggah Monday integration, system levels, and that's what I'm posting in the school every single week and trying to like just teach those systems. Like you don't need to go and like transcribe every Meshuggah song. I can tell you the system. We can, it though. That's the thing. Eric, obviously you know it. Many people know the Meshuggah system. There's people who talk about it on YouTube all the time. We're not the first. We're not trying to say it's like, this is so classic and essential, right? And it's like, who is teaching it? I don't know, but we're definitely using it and leading by example, and we'll continue to teach it, right?
1,000%, yeah. It's a system, completely, like we talked about. Hold on, give me just 1 second. Yeah, so Botpop is all about integration, synthesis. For example, let's say you wanted to do this as like a chef or something, right? So you start by making a recipe based on something that you got out of a cookbook, right? Maybe it's a certain dish. And then you take that recipe and you make a similar dish in the similar style, but it's using your own ingredients. You're changing things, you're tweaking things, and just making it your own dish, not this dish from this recipe book, essentially. That's kind of what it's like, right?
You're taking out of the recipe book for sure. Because with Meshuggah that they thought about this, right? They weren't picking these beat cycles willy-nilly. They were choosing the best ones. Guaranteed. Like Martin said about the recent album anyway, he had 10 times as much material, as he needed. That sounds about right. You know what I mean? At least 10 times more than that's how much obviously my ratio to release and creation is, right? I got hundreds of these things and I'm putting out 7 on an album. Meshuggah's doing that to levels unheard of. So the point being is those beat cycles that they're using are biblical level classics. Biblical level dishes, right?
Building blocks, as you called them.
They're the best freaking ones, and you really get to get inside their mind and see they're very creative within that beat cycle construction, right? In subversive levels, right? I mean, for example, one subversive level this is Subversion level 1 stuff. You know this, where you put the truncation. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, you go back and watch all my videos. So your truncator is at 20. So what I'll do is just do this, right? Just basic geometry. Move this whole thing over 20 subdivisions. Boom. There we go. But where they put the truncation is Subversion level 1. And it goes from there. I mean, it goes all the way into the micro, basically all the way down to the 3s and 2s at the end of the day.
What do you mean by subversion? In this context.
The best way I can describe subversion is what I just said about truncation and putting the truncation in different locations. That's the first example of the kind of subversion.
Subversion is an unexpected thing. You think things are going in one direction and then all of a sudden it's surprise.
Right. It's some other thing that you didn't see initially. Surprise, it's not the thing that you thought it was. That's subversive.
I find that all the time with Meshuggah's music.
So classic.
All the time, right?
Yep.
That's Meshuggah 101. When you're first transcribing the riffs, man, you think you've got it, and then all of a sudden there's a truncation out of nowhere. And what you mean by truncation, you say this in your other videos, but it's like, it's that point where the cycle is truncated. It's just cut out of nowhere, and you're at the top of a 4/4 bar. Usually that's what happens, right? Would you agree with
Yeah, that's an excellent example. So the truncation is the anomaly, right? Because it's different than the other cycles. It's a fragment of a cycle. But because the parameter is 4/4, it must be truncated. So it's an inevitable byproduct of the Meshuggah system. Truncation cycle, the truncated cycle, the anomaly. So the classic level is it starts with the anomaly, right? It's like, of course that's fucked up, right? Of course. And then it gets deeper levels where it's like it doesn't, sometimes the anomaly will be the second time or the third time. So you'll do 2 of the cycles and you'll be like, oh, I totally get what's going on. And then something's weird on the third one. And then you're like, what? But you realize very quickly, oh, truncation. Like, think about it. It's not that hard to kind of start to see that, but you got to get deep in the weeds of Meshuggah to, like, you know, get to that point where you are seeing those things.
Truncation is interesting. I mean, can you think of any examples of bands that aren't Meshuggah that are like in like the mainstream pop or indie vein that use truncated cycles?
Man, not like Meshuggah does. I'll tell you that. I don't know if there's any. I don't think there's any, because you can really understand and identify the truncation method, the cycle method. It's very identifiable once you know what you're looking at. That's why I can say confidently that I cannot think of any bands that do the truncation thing. They might do it in an unsystematic way for sure, maybe, and that's, I should give more credit there, but it's like, well, what bands are we really thinking about? Obviously Tool, that's the first one you're thinking of, and guess what? They don't do it. So Tool doesn't do it. I mean, what do we got?
Because with Meshuggah, there's like a rhythmic aspect of it, right? I feel that they use that a lot of pop or indie groups don't use. That being said, I have heard pop and indie groups kind of do it with harmonic progressions, where you think it's going to go somewhere and then they truncate it, and it's suddenly you're like in like a new place. Like Big Thief is a great example. They do that a lot. Adrienne Lanker, in like her compositions, she does that. And I also feel like I've heard, oh, Boy Genius does it a little bit. Have you checked them out?
Nope, never heard of it.
Yeah, they do it sometimes.
Okay, then so people are repping it.
But it's not rhythmic, you know, like it's more harmonic, if that makes sense. So it's like these cadences are happening in places where you don't expect them to, right? All of a sudden you've been subverted in a way where you think that the progression is going in one direction, and then it deceptively goes in the other direction. Harmonic truncation, that's a good thing to think about too.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, when I think about it, I can totally think of 100,000 examples of harmonic truncation. Totally normalized.
Way more common.
It's everywhere. It's literally like Steely Dan 101 stuff.
Yes, Steely Dan is a great example. Oh, man.
And I would say, like, even, for sure, Tool has harmonic truncation because it's actually so ubiquitous. It's like the thing to do. The truncation is a powerful thing.
Harmonic and rhythmic truncation both. I mean, I feel like that's a cool thing to really think about because, like, I haven't really heard people talk about that much. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places.
Maybe we're not.
I guess you could call it like deceptive cadences in a way, right?
The truncation is a part of a cadence, and it's whether it's harmonic or rhythmic. So of course there's all kinds of deception. Maybe I should say deception instead of subversion. Honestly, that might be the classic word that they use with the old schools. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Deception, easily.
I think deception, that makes sense.
I didn't want to admit that it's deceptive, Wanted to say subversive. No, it's cool. We can use that word. It's the proper word, It's all about deception, really. And that's kind of the nugget of the whole level with the Meshuggah stuff is just like, it's just deception. Like, really at the end of the day, the truncation is a systematic, powerful, deceptive tool. And the crazy thing is, like, we're saying, like, we can't think of that many bands who rep the system like that, But it's just like, when I think about how many songs that you and I have written in this integration process, I mean, we've written enough songs for a lot of, you know, we've created a freaking genre of this that that people haven't even heard, right? But the Bop Pop stuff is just for the people in, you know, it's like, we don't release it. You don't need to, right? You're already getting their reaction. Like, you're getting people listening to it anyway, and you're not thinking of it as like, oh, like I'm trying to get streams. You're thinking of it as like, dude, this is where I'm going to become the best freaking songwriter, right? And we're just coming from Meshuggah Pyramid School. Eric and I, we show up. Like, we're from the same school. We're both from Meshuggah Pyramid School. But you go to Botpop, that's another institution. Like, So, oh, and speaking of that, I'm going to have King Bop on the podcast. Obviously. Botpop, dude. Botpop. You don't even know, dude. You're going to learn, though, because we're going to get King Bop on here. But the point is Botpop is its own institution, a separate school. People come from schools far and wide with their tools. And because you have to have systems. You know what I mean? Like, you can't think you're going to survive in Botpop on creativity and inspiration. Get a life, dude. Get real. Wake up out of your dream. You need a system if you want to sling bangers week after week, dude. You need a system, right? And so we hacked the Meshuggah one, and that reps it. But it's like, those guys don't use the Meshuggah one. There's mad systems out here. And guess what? Obviously, Botpop, King Bop, in friggin' Systems for Creation. Obviously, he's a faculty member. Literally, don't even question it. Yeah, rumor has it King Bop is building a website, you know, for Botpop, because, you know, that's what he's been working on, right? So that would kick it up a notch, because right now we're just in the group, right? And guess what, dude? The whole thing is exclusivity. This is where you're going to have to get in the school, right? Because this is like where you're going to find out about Botpop. I can't link it. That's not the vibe. You don't understand, dude. You have to be serious to be in Botpop, right? Like, Meshuggah Monday is like, oh, we put it out on YouTube, and it's just a different level. Like, it's serious. It's serious as a freaking heart attack. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have, in a weird way, it doesn't have a competitive. There's nothing competitive. Meshuggah Monday is like a whole other. It's pure training. You don't think about competition when you're in training.
But Botpop is competitive.
Botpop is competitive. Like, show up to the games and be serious and ready to get cut. You know what I mean? Like, because you get cut, dude. People feedback that thing, right? Like, you know, you get all kinds of like relationships and stuff and like vibes. It's so intense. Because think about it, like the playlist congeals, right? If you're in that psychic headspace with like 10, 11, 12 other people, and you're on that playlist, there is huge psychic levels. Like, that's why Botpop is like easily huge mystery school pyramid levels, because you experience wacky levels of understanding and cosmic telekinetics. It's not seriously. It's a crazy like paradigm that like we certainly didn't invent this. You know, somebody was doing that back in the pyramids, you know, 40,000 years ago. And maybe 400 million years ago. You know what I mean? Like that Botpop, vote on the songs every week, perform. It's like basic stuff. It's like, but then if you do it, it gets serious. The momentum of it builds. And Botpop is older than us. It was already well established when we showed up. And then we obviously went hard for, I think at least 2 years. Honestly, it's 3 years, because I have 150 bops, so it's about 3 years, like 160 bops.
One thing that is also cool to think about when it comes to Botpop is when you're trying to write songs every single week and push yourself to that limit. I started doing this thing where I'd jump genres, you know, and like genre blend, like try and come up with a new genre, right? Like a new mix. And I think for composers in general, that's a really good practice to try and do, you know? Try and write in a genre that you're not used to, or that you think that you would like be bad at doing, you know? It's a great practice.
Botpop is a rare place. Meshuggah Monday is a rare place. And to do them together, it's very, obviously, highly, highly rare, but inevitable at the same time. So what ends up happening is you write the hardest bangers. Your tunes just go absolutely ballistic nuts when you actually like take the Meshuggah cycles and recycle them with new harmonic progressions. It's another, code to the matrix. It's crazy what ends up happening to your songs. And we have, like we said, we've got hundreds of these things, right? Like you can remember which rhythms are like those iconic essential ones because of the way that like your song worked out when you built the harmony on them. Like one is like Don't Look Down. Like the ultimate, like, what? It's so offensive, dude. That rhythm is so offensive. You write some fat riffs to it.
Oh, offensive.
Yeah. And the thing that ends up happening is because the instrumental builds, on top of that, fundamental rhythm that they've, mined and shown you that it's going to work, you build on top of that thing, you got it. Your vocals end up natural. I did not sing before Botpop. Botpop made me sing, but it was because I was doing the Meshuggah integration system where I was building these, big songs. It's like, oh, well, like they need vocals, there's no escaping that. And then also in Botpop, instrumental is just, you can do it. Go ahead, do instrumental. No one will ever vote for you because why instrumental? It's like, no, sorry, that's not Botpop good enough. Like you're not, you
have to write lyrics and you have to sing.
Don't try to justify it in your mind. It's not good enough. You know what I mean? Like it's not singing. Yeah. So you end up using your voice and you figure out ways to do it. One thing you learn quickly, it's not about being a good singer. That's not what wins Botpop. That's not what makes bangers. It's about like Robert Fripp type vocals and stuff, you know what I mean? And like Zach De La Rocha, and like
yeah. Exactly.
So anyway, join us in Systems for Creation, dude. Meet up with King Bop. Look forward to King Bop on Systems for Creation podcast episode 3. No avoiding that, dude. It's like the institutions coming together, dude. It's perfect. It's inevitable. King Bop is a serious person. And if you're serious and disciplined, then you need to know about these kinds of levels, right? You don't even understand where this stuff goes, man. We're telling you. It's been long enough. It's established. This is stuff going on for close to a decade, this stuff. And it's like, okay, time to like talk about all the stuff we've been doing and archiving. Forget about Father Nicotine, Idiot Band. You don't even have any idea. You have no idea. So we'll see you in class.
See you in class.
Because you got to get educated, son.